In this video, I'm going to show you how to build an advanced AI writing automation that gives you an unfair advantage. The system does the work of an entire agency, producing high-quality content on autopilot. You see, most people doing content automation are getting it wrong because they don't know the techniques that you're about to learn in this video. By the end of this video, you'll have the tools to automate content like a pro. So let's dive in. Okay, I'm going to show you how this automation works in just a second. I'll take you through a live run through so you can see the process happening in real time. And then after that, I'm actually going to build it piece by piece so you can just copy along. So first, I just want to give you a bird's eye view of what we're actually doing so you understand the process. So this diagram explains that on the left-hand side, we have inputs. So in this example today, I'm going to use a YouTube video transcript. We're going to take a YouTube video and we're going to turn it into a blog post. Okay, and it's not just any old blog post. This is a really high quality blog post, and you're going to see why as we go through this automation. Okay, because of the advanced automation that we're building. This is not a beginner's automation, but if you've never done any automation building before, you will be able to do this. You just have to pause the video, but I'll make sure that I explain every step. So if you're a complete newbie, you will be able to do this also. The inputs that we're going to put, it could come from your brain. You might just have an idea, right? You want to have an idea and turn it into a blog post. That's fine. We can start with that. Or you might have a LinkedIn post and you want to turn it into a blog post. That's fine too. It really doesn't matter what the input is, but in the example, I'm going to use YouTube video, okay? This inputs go into Airtable. Airtable's a database. I use it in all my automations because it's incredible. Once the information of the ideas that we want to create the video and the post about are in Airtable, then we can action our automations. So we're actually going to be using another database, which is a vector database called Pinecone. If you haven't had any experience in Pinecone before, watch my previous videos because I talk about them in those videos. I use Pinecone a lot because it gives you a huge advantage. Just a quick summary, Pinecone's a vector database that allows you to store a lot of information. So what you can do is create an expert in your niche or on your brand. So instead of relying on ChatGPT or Claude to go and write some content that's related to your company, your brand, your niche, it'll do an average job at best, because it can't be an expert at everything. But what we want to do is we want to create expert AIs. And the way we do that is we create a Pinecone database and we feed it full of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of pieces of content that are high quality. So we create a genius that we can call on anytime we want. So it's like having your own in-house genius. Think of it that way. Okay, we've got the genius, we've got Airtable. Then we're going to run an automation. The automation engine I'm going to use in this automation is N8N. Okay, you could do the same thing with Make. I use Make also. I find both tools are great. They've got different purposes, but they're similar. So leave me a comment below if you prefer N8N or Make. I'd be interested to see what people are thinking these days. So I'm going to use N8N. You will need an account at N8N to run this automation. You can use a free account. You'll also need an account at Airtable, and you can use a free account for that. You'll need an account at Pinecone, and again, you can use a free account for that. And there may be a couple other accounts that we need, but all of them are either free or have free credit that they'll allow you to use. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're then going to run the automation, and it's going to turn our original idea into a high quality piece of content. So that's the concept of what's going on here. There's obviously a lot more complexity as we build this out, but I wanted to get the step back and help you understand what we're actually doing. So let's trigger an automation, and I'm going to walk you through it happening in real time. So I go to Airtable. In Airtable, I have a YouTube URL and the title of the video. That's all I've got. Okay, there's nothing else I've got to go on. Okay, all I need to do is just click in here and go write blog post like that. And then it will create a high quality blog post. And here's how it's going to do it. I'm going to test the workflow. I should have turned that on before. Sorry, that was my bad. I might have to re-trigger that. So just give me 1 second. I'll just come back here and re-trigger it because I thought I'd turned it on. So now it's waiting for a trigger. So Airtable is that trigger. Here it comes. So if I just zoom in, you can see here what's happening is the webhook is fired. The Airtable module has pulled in that video URL that we want to scrape. This HTTP request is now going to a service called Apify, which is going to get the transcript of that video. It sends it back to us automatically. We have an AI here which is trained to summarize the YouTube transcript and also create a prompt from that for Perplexity, which has now got it. So Perplexity is another AI This AI is now going out onto the internet and doing deep research. Perplexity is a deep researching AI. It's got more information that's related to the YouTube video. So we're getting content research from multiple sources. Now another AI has got it, and it's creating a detailed blog outline. So it's creating sections and subsections. So it's not just a vague blog outline, it's going deep. It's now passed over the blog outline plus the research from Perplexity, plus the summary of the YouTube video. So this AI agent now dives into the Pinecone database. You can see it doing it now. And section by section of the blog post, it's iterating through each section and looking for the most relevant content from our database. So by doing it this way, the AI is retrieving specific content so we can write a high quality blog article. It's not vague because this Pinecone database has been pre-populated with loads of information on this niche. So what we've done is we've got a structured blog outline. We've got information from our YouTube video. We've got information from Perplexity. And now we're diving into our own database to retrieve highly specific information. And then we move on to the next stage. So now we're getting our website URL, our sitemap. Now it's passing it on here and it's getting the reference links from the Perplexity searches that it did. So we've got our reference information. It's extracting those. Now it's starting to write the body section. So section by section, it's taking the research that it got from Perplexity. It's taking the research from Pinecone, our own database, and it's looking at the YouTube summary that we fed it. And it's iterating section by section by section through the blog post and writing the body section of the blog post now. Once it's finished, it's then going to pass it on to another writer, which is going to write the introduction section. So it has context on what the blog is about. But this is where the power of running a system like this is. It doesn't just spit out a vague blog post. It actually iterates through sections, and each section it's been given has its own research that was pulled from the database. So the AI has a lot of high relevant information to write from. Now you can see the intro writer has been passed over the body copy of the blog, so it knows what the body's about. Now it's writing a conclusion. Once it's finished writing the conclusion, it's then going to put them all together in one final blog post and then update Airtable with the finished result, which it's doing right now. So there it's finished. So now if I go back to Airtable, we can see here, if I look into the blog article, it updated it here. And here is the output. So I can copy that here and I can go to an HTML viewer and we can just paste it in because it's an HTML like that. And here's the blog post. So this is a high quality blog post and it's structured in a way that is easy to read. It bolds section, it puts bulleted lists in, it varies up the paragraph length and structure. And it has headings and subheadings, and it's got references and citations, and it's got internal linking into other links within our own website. So this is not a low quality article. This is a high quality, well-referenced article. Now, in future automations, I'm going to show you how you can embed images from AI, how you can also embed tables if you want to have a table. Depends what the blog post is about, obviously, and also show you how to do like infographics and things or videos we can embed. But for this automation, I'll stick to just going through what we just did now. So what I'm going to do is take you through step by step how we just got to here. From a YouTube URL is all we had. We had nothing else except a YouTube video, and we ended up with a high quality reference interlinked article like this. So here's how we do it. Let's go back to the beginning here. And I'm going to show you how to set up piece by piece. I'm going to move quite quickly because I don't want this video to be too long, but I encourage you just to pause the video if you get stuck on anything and then just work through at a pace that works for you. Okay, so actually the first thing we need to do is go to Airtable. So you need an account here and you need to create a new blank table, okay? Then you need to create these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. So all you do here is create plus to start from scratch a new table, and then plus over here at the end of a column to create a new column. The first column here that you've got, call it video title and make sure it's a single line of text. The next one is video URL and make sure it's a URL field from the drop-down URL. Okay, the next one is status. Make sure that's a single select. And then you need to have a couple of options here. You don't need all these options here. All you need to do is have two options, write blog and blog article written. So just populate that with those two. You just click add option like that, and there's add two options. You can color them any color you like. The next one you want to have is a URL, and call it sitemap. In here, you're going to put your sitemap. We'll get to that later. And here, this section here is a blog article. This is the final article goes here, or the blog post, whatever you want to call it. And that's a long text field there. And finally, the last field here is a formula field, which is a record ID. So call it record_ID, select formula. In the field below here, just type in record_ID, open close parenthesis, and click save like that. Now that you've got that set up, obviously, you need to then go and get yourself a YouTube video that you want to turn into a blog post, and post, just so you've got something to practice on, get a URL, put it in there, and paste in the title of it in there. That's all you need to do for now, and we're going to come back and add a sitemap when we get to the sitemap section. Okay, now over to the tab at the top called Automation. Go to Automation. Ignore the fact that I've got all these automations here. You don't need any of that. You're just going to click Create New Automation in the bottom left. You're going to click Create a Trigger when a record matches a condition. And then you're going to choose the configuration. You choose the table that you're working on. And then in the conditions, you choose when drop down. And the condition you're looking for is when the status here is, and change that to write blog. Okay, you need to have this set up like that. And that's why we had in the drop-down menus when we were over here setting up the status column, I said you need two statuses, okay? You need blog article written and you need write blog like that, okay? I'm going to turn that off. You need those two statuses. The write blog status, this one, is what's going to trigger this automation. If you get back here, okay, that's going to trigger it because we're telling it to trigger it here. After you've got that set up, you need to add logic here, and it's adding a formula, run a script. So click run a script like that. You're going to see a blank canvas in here. Don't be intimidated by this. If you've never done any coding in your life before, don't be intimidated by any of the things you see in this video. And don't think that you can't do this, because you can. You don't need to be a coder at all. You can get ChatGPT to do all your coding, or Claude for you. You really can, and I'll show you how in this video. What you're going to put in that field, though, let me just go back to it here on one that's completed, is just this. So just take a screenshot right now, pause the video, take a screenshot, put it into ChatGPT or Claude and say, please write out the code for me. Now, you need to replace this webhook URL with your own webhook or it won't work. Okay, so don't put that webhook in. But I'm going to show you how to get your webhook in a second. But what you need to do now, on the left-hand side, you need to set a variable, which is called record ID. So put record, capital I, and then D. Make sure it's a capital I or it won't work. In the value, click Airtable record ID, okay, plus symbol Airtable record ID. Leave this open. We're going to come back to it in a second. We now need to go to N8N and set up a webhook. We get the webhook URL, we come back and we paste it in here, and then we're done at Airtable for now. Over at N8N, what you need to do is set up this webhook, okay? To set up a webhook, you put the plus symbol up the top. Then you just click web. Click webhook, okay? Open the webhook. And the webhook at the top, that URL, take that URL. I've got it set to test URL at the moment. When you're actually using this in full production mode, flick it over to production URL like that, and then make sure you swap that out. Don't forget to do that, okay? Just copy that URL, take that back to Airtable, and paste that in right there like that, and then you're done on that, okay? Back to N8N. All you need to do here is leave everything else actually the same. The HTTP request is just a GET request. Just leave it all the way it is. And that's all you need to do at this point. I'm just going to disconnect this so it's the only module, okay? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to test the workflow. And now it's waiting for a trigger event. So how are we going to trigger it? Well, we're going to go back to Airtable, and we're going to change the status to write blog. And it's going to trigger that webhook here. This is going to trigger in a moment. There we go. Now it's been triggered. We can connect it to another module, which is an Airtable get record ID. You need to now get this module here. Go to plus over on the left, click in Airtable, go there and make sure you get the one that says get a record. Okay. Once you've got get a record, open it up. Once that webhook is fired from the previous step, like we just did, we can now map fields in. We need to have schema set at the top left, so set to schema. And then all you want to do in here is you need to set up your credentials. So you need to click that pencil icon and add in your API key and credentials in order to connect Airtable to N8N. Now, I'm not going to go through that in this video, but if you click on that docs there, N8N takes you through exactly how to do that. It's not difficult, but you have to just go to Airtable, get an API key, come back, click, put it in here, and then you're good to go. I'm going to assume you've done that section, that part there. The next thing is resource record, operation get, and then the base and table. All you do is choose from the list of the table you just created in the base. So on Airtable, that's the table, and then this sub node in here is the base. Okay, that's all you're doing there. You just select them like that. They'll just automatically show up as drop downs once you've done your authentication anyway. In the record ID field here, set that to expression, and then you want to come over here and you want to look for the field that says record ID, which is down here. See here, drag it, drop it like that. I'm going to delete it because I got twice in there now. That's all you need to do at this point. If you run this step now, it's going to pull the record from Airtable. So you can see here's the record. So this was the, I've already obviously written the blog post for this one, but this would be blank normally. But there it pulls in the video URL. So I'm just going to remind you where we are at. It's this URL is just being pulled through. And the reason is it's because we triggered this row. Back to N8N, there's the URL. We need that URL in order to get the transcript of that video. That's all we need to do at this point. Okay, the next one is an HTTP request. What we're doing here is we're going to connect to a service called Apify, which is apify.com. Apify is going to get the URL of the YouTube video, grab us the transcript, and send the transcript back to us. So in order to do this, we need an account over at Apify, and we need our API key once again, and then we need to have a connection to it in our HTTP request. So open it up, the methods post, the URL I'm going to get for you now, and you're also going to need your API key. So make sure you get your API key. So let's do it right now. Okay, over at Apify, go to settings and then go to API integrations and click create new token. Give it a name, and then it'll spit out an API, a token code for you. Save those to a notepad. You're going to need them. You also need to go to the store section, go to actors, and then look for this actor called YouTube Transcript Ninja. Once you're on this page, go up to the top right-hand corner and go to API endpoints, okay? Once you're at API endpoints, you look for this URL here under Run Actor Synchronously. This is important. Don't get the Run Actor one. Get the synchronously one, and then copy that. So now you have your API key and the name of the API key and the token itself, and you've got this URL. That's all you need from Apify. Now, Apify gives you free credits, so you need to sign up and get an account, and they'll give you free credits to use this. Once your free credits have run out, this particular act is only $10 for 1,000 transcripts, so it's pretty cheap. So once you've got that information, we're going to go back to N8N and we're going to plug it into our HTTP request. Okay, I'm back at N8N. In the URL field, put the URL that we copied. Okay, authentication leave as none. Turn the send headers on using the fields below. In the name section, put authorization. In the value section, put bearer, capital B, E-A-R-E-R, then a space, and then your Apify token that they gave you in your API when you set it up. Next, we're going to put in here a name, the name field content type. So content hyphen type, that's capital C, and then a hyphen and type, capital T, and the value, put application /JSON. So once again, application /JSON. Once you've done that, keep going down to the send body, turn that on. Okay, in the send body section, we're going to click send body type to JSON, and then specify body using the JSON below. We're going to use this. So in this field below, set it to expression. I'm going to open it up so it's easy to see. Okay, what we're doing here is we're just going to map in this JSON, very simple JSON code, exactly like I have here, but you want to dynamically map in this field here, URL. You can drag it and just drop it. I'm going to just drop it down here so you can see how to drag and drop. I'm going to delete that, but you would drag and drop it right in between the quotes like that, exactly how I've got that. Copy that exactly, drag in your URL, and then you're good to go. Okay. I can then test that, and then it will go and get the YouTube transcript for me from Apify. So right now it's pinging Apify, and it's going to get the transcript. And when it's done, it's going to come back with the transcript for us. I'm going to let that run. I'm going to pop out of here now, and then we're going to look at, while that's running, we're going to get the next module here ready to go. Okay, so the next module is an AI module, and it looks like it's done the job for us. Go over here, and you want to type in here basic LLM chain. Grab that. A basic LLM chain is basically an AI module, and it needs to have connected to it an AI. So here, off the model branch, just connect it and put OpenAI chat model. Okay, choose the model. I've just got GPT-4o, I think, connected here. You don't have to change any settings. You just have to have this connected, or this won't work. Okay, on here, you'll notice there's another thing connected. I'm going to tell you what that is in just a second, but let's first open this up. Okay, once you're in here, we need to put a prompt in this field, and we're going to put source for prompt define below. Okay, so put define below, set it to expression, pop it up by clicking that little arrow. And then here, just type in, it's a pretty basic prompt here, okay? It's just, you're an expert at summarizing long video scripts into precise, highly detailed overviews to ensure you capture all the details and miss nothing important. I could have done a much more detailed prompt, and I probably will in the future as I use this more, but for this video, I just want to get something to show you. And then I put summarize the following video script. Now I'm dragging the video script that just came back from Apify, which is the previous module. See, I can just drag it like that. I can just drag it straight in and drop it. You've got to have it set to expression on the previous, when I close this view down, okay? Summarize the following video script and also output 5 highly relevant keywords that relate to it. The reason we're asking for the extra keywords and not just the summary is we're going to use those keywords in the next prompt when we prompt Perplexity to go out onto the internet and do a deep dive and research and find highly relevant, like scientific articles for us. I'm going to close out of that. I've put here require output specific format. Click that to yes, or slide it over, okay? So what we're going to do here is we're going to make sure we force this AI to output in a structure that we want. Sometimes AIs can output in some structures that are a little bit annoying. They can have like extra text and stuff that we don't want. We can force guardrails around them by doing this step here. And what we do here is we then add this module here, an output parser, okay? So this is a structured output parser here, okay? And then we're giving it an example of how we want it to output it. So I'm saying here, if you just copy this exactly, take a screenshot, copy it, and then we move on. I'm just giving it an example output, and then it will copy it. So I'm going to copy the words. It's just going to copy the structure. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. We're giving it a sample to say, oh, you want it output like this, right? That's all that's doing. Okay, you don't have to do this, but I find it gives me better results. Once we run this, then the output is going to be fed into the next module, which is Perplexity, which is another AI module which specializes in deep research. Okay, let's run this module. While this is running and getting the transcript summary and the keywords for us, we're going to set up this next module. This is another HTTP request. Okay, so I'm going to open it up. It's the same sort of thing we did earlier, but it's just different credentials here that we did. Instead of Apify, we now need our API key from Perplexity. Okay, and we need the URL from Perplexity. So set it to a post method. The URL is just this. Just copy what I've got on the screen right now. Just pause the screen and just type that in exactly in the URL. In the authentication field, leave it to generic credential type. Generic auth type, just put header auth. And then in header auth here, this is where you're going to put your details that you get from Perplexity. So it's the same thing. Authorization, in the value field, put bearer with a capital B, B-E-A-R-E-R, then put a space, and then paste your API token in here. I'll show you how to get the API token in a second, because we're going to need to go to Perplexity to do that. All you need to do now is put send body on, slide that over to green, and the body content, leave it at JSON using the JSON below, and then we're going to give it this JSON structure here, okay? All we're going to do, though, is map one field, which is those keywords that we just got from the previous module. Remember, I just said that we're going to get that AI module to give us some keywords that relate to the video. Well, this is where we're going to use those keywords now. So you can see I can drag these keywords straight into here. I'll just drag them at the bottom, see how they show up. And then on the right-hand side, it gives you a preview. This is what the AI sees here, okay? It actually sees the keywords. I'm just going to delete that out of there like that. Copy this prompt exactly like this. And then that's all you need to do in this section here. It's just, this will work and this will send the information over to Perplexity and it will do a search on these exact keywords and retrieve information from its deep dive on the internet. And it gets really good content back. I'm just going to close that out now. So let's head over to Perplexity and show you what to do here. Over at Perplexity, you need an account. You can have a free account at Perplexity. Perplexity is not that expensive, so you can just put a couple of dollars credit on, and you can get more advanced features. If you go to the API section, which I'm on now, you need to just go to Generate an API key, as you can see at the bottom. Generate API key, grab your API key. That's all you need to do. And then we're going to head back over to N8N, and then in the header auth section, and here, that's where you would have connected that up. Once you've done that, then we can run the Perplexity test by just click testing. Now it's going to grab the keywords from here and it's going to do a search on these particular keywords which relate to our YouTube video. And then it's going to give us a result. So here's the result that's come back through. You can see it gives us citations. So it went to WebMD, Medical News Today, the NILBA, whatever that website is, all these other websites, right? And then it's given us some research here on the topic. So it just gives us another layer of deep research that we can use when we're coming up with our blog post, okay? So it's not just a YouTube video, we're layering on the research. Let's move along now. I know I'm going at a pretty quick pace. I'm just trying to keep this video as reasonable length as I can because this is a complex automation, but it's very doable. Okay, after we've got the Perplexity stuff back, we're going to extract information that we want out of that result. So we're not just going to take all of it. The way we're going to do that is this module here. So if you're not familiar with what this module is, just stop here for a sec. This is just a set variable module. They call them in make.com. If you're more familiar with make, it's just basically setting something, grabbing something and just parking it up, the information up here to use later in the automation, okay? So all we do here, if you go over to the plus symbol here and just go type in set, and it's the edit fields variable, that one with the little pencil, okay? Once you've got that open, put mode manual mapping, okay? And then you're just going to click, you're just creating two fields here. You just literally create the fields, give them a name there, Perplexity output, and then citation. So what we're doing is I'm breaking up the citations that Perplexity got, which were all these websites, the references that it found. So I'm putting them in a separate storage over here. And then I'm getting the output, just the written research that it found, and I'm putting that in here, okay? So the way we map that out is I literally just grab the citations and I just dump them in that field there like that. And I just make sure that this is set to string, both of these to string. Okay, and then you need to make sure that these are on expression so that you can map these fields in like this. Okay, and then this message content is coming down from here. So you can see here, it's just the content is the result that it got down here, and I mapped that in there. Okay, once those fields are set like that, this Perplexity output is now saved in here for me to use later. So I can run that module. It's really going to run quite quickly because it's not doing anything except grabbing that and just saving it for us. But it puts it in a format that's very easy for me to use downstream in the automation. And I just find it's an easy habit to do, just to grab and park things sometimes when I need to reference them later. So now I've just got a simple output here saved of citations and then the actual research like that. I'm going to park that up and I'm going to leave it there like that. Okay, now we're going to add another module, which is a basic LLM chain again, same thing we did here, okay? What we're going to do here, one thing I forgot to mention actually, which I should have, and I apologize for not doing it earlier. On this step here, back here, when you connected this AI chat model, you need to have an account at OpenAI. So it's not just a normal ChatGPT account where you're just typing in and ask ChatGPT questions. You actually need to go to OpenAI and actually create a developer account where they give you access to the API. Okay, it's a different account. Just make sure you don't get confused about that, because when you're setting this up here, it's going to ask you for your API credentials to connect this. So I just assumed that people would know that, but I got to be careful because not everybody's at the same stage when they're doing these automations. So make sure you go to OpenAI, set up an account, and get an API key so that you can connect these ChatGPT modules here to these LLM chains. Okay. So it's the same setup we did last time. That's the same as this, identical, okay? No difference. And what we're going to do is open this up here. And here we're going to do everything the same except the prompting in here we're going to set to expression. I'm going to open that up. And we've got this prompt. So this prompt is creating the blog outline. So I'm going to take you through this rather quickly, but I encourage you just to take screenshots. Take a screenshot to to there, chuck it into ChatGPT and tell it to spit it out for you. I don't mind you copying this, it's fine. You can adapt it and you probably make it better than me. And then this section here, if you just do the same, just go to there, and then I'll explain what's going on in a second. And then the final section is here. Okay, that's the full prompt. You could screenshot and get an AI to write that out for you. Okay, but what I'm doing in here is I'm basically giving it instructions on how I want it to structure the blog outline. Okay, so the more detail I give it here, the better the blog outline is going to be. So we don't want to just say create a blog outline because it will probably be quite rubbish. We want to give it, tell it what we want it to do. Give it a little bit more guardrails, and then we'll get a better result. Okay, so that's what I'm doing in here, but I also need to map in certain fields in order for it to be able to do that. So here's where I use all the information we've created so far. So you can see here is a summary of the video transcript. I drag and drop the summary that we got from the earlier step, the transcript summary. Here's some related keywords. I drag and drop the keywords that came out of that keyword mod where it created the summary. It also did keywords. And then I drag and drop research content. This is the Perplexity output that we drop in here. So this way, it has the research that it needs to give it some context on what sort of a blog it's creating and what subtopics and topics that it's going to need. So it knows, it gives it a direction on how to structure the blog article. Okay. And then we actually give it some more direction down below here. So once you've done that, it's going to look like this on the right-hand side. So this is the full prompt here for this AI. So I'm just going to hop out of that. Make sure that you drag and drop. You need to set it to schema to be able to drag and drop things in here like I was doing before. The other thing that I do here is, again, I set required specific output and I slide that over to green here, okay? So what I'm doing, if I click out of here and go back, I'm adding on a structured output module, just like I did here, to force it to output in a structure that I want it to. Generate from JSON example, and then here I give it the example that I want. I'm going to open that up for you, take a screenshot. Okay, there's no, whoops, I didn't mess it up, thankfully. Take a screenshot, but this is giving it an example. I think I may have, hold on, let me just see if I cut that. Okay, sorry, I didn't realize it wasn't showing the whole thing. I was wondering why it wasn't a complete JSON structure. But this is what I'm telling it here to do. So it has an idea of how I want it to output, okay? So it gives it the guardrails, okay? Take a screenshot of that. This way we get the output that we want and not some random output that's just, rubbish. So I'm going to run that. It's now going to go and create that blog outline for us. I'm going to move along. Now, this next node, while that's running, is a code node. So to get a code node, you just go over here and type code like that. Click code. Don't be intimidated about having a code node. You don't have to know any coding whatsoever to be able to use these things, because the AIs are going to be your coders. It's like having a team of coders on stuff. The reason I've got this in here is that I wanted to force this AI module to clean up the output. Now, I tried to get it to do it with just a structure, but it was still not quite exactly as I wanted it in order to feed it into this AI agent. And this AI agent was getting a little confused, so I fixed it by just adding this step in here. So basically, all you need to do is just copy this. If you just copy this exactly like I've got it, again, just take a screenshot, upload it into ChatGPT and say, reproduce this for me, this JavaScript, and it will just do it and then paste it in here. And that's really all you need to do. The only thing to be aware of is that you need to make sure that you've named all of your modules the same that I've named mine. Otherwise, it might break the automation because it doesn't recognize things. But what's happening here is it was extracting if I just run this module here, it was extracting what I needed because the output from the previous module was embedding some of these sub headings here within deeper arrays, and then I couldn't iterate over that when I was passing it into the AI agent easily. So by just running this and restructuring the output like this, it was easier for me to feed that in and section by section into the AI agent. Because you got to remember, with the AI agent, it's iterating through all of these sections of the blog post, because the blog outline's been written now, and it's broken it into a section title and a subheading like this. You can see all these sections here, then another section title, subheadings. So I want to feed these sections one by one into the next module, which is the AI agent, because the AI agent is going to take section by section and go into the Pinecone database and look for relevant research that relates to just each section. So just this section, not the next section. It's actually deep diving into the Pinecone database and going, what can I find from our own database that's most relevant to this section of the blog post? Then it's going to retrieve that back and pass that on to the writing AI later when the writing AI comes to write this section. Because the writing AI is going to write it. We want to give it as much help as we can, as much research. So it's like having a team in an agency where somebody's doing the research, somebody's doing the structuring of the blog post, and then they're all passing it along till finally the writer gets everything and it writes. Okay, so it's like you've got specialists in your team. So this node just simply cleaned up the output and made it easier for this node to communicate with this node. That's all that's doing. Okay, and if you get stuck when you're doing any of these automations and you have a problem where one node won't communicate with the next node properly, these code nodes can really get you out of trouble. All you do is drop it in there and ask an AI, tell the AI your problem, saying, this isn't working, I've got a problem. Can you write some JavaScript to fix it? And 9 times out of 10, it will be able to fix it for you. I've got a couple of these throughout here that I just did because I quit when I was putting this together to save time and have to fix some of the problems that were popping up. I just added code nodes in here and it just fixed them really quickly for me. Okay, the next module that we've got here is an AI agent. This is different than these other LLM chains that we had, okay? Similar but different. An AI agent is able to multitask. So add an AI agent here, go to Advanced AI here, and then you want to click AI agent, okay? Once you've got your AI agent here, you need to again connect a brain, which is the same thing we've done with these other modules. So connect that up. You also need to connect a memory to it. It needs a memory. So in order to do that off the memory branch, just connect window buffer memory like that. Okay, I'm going to hop into this module here. You can just, in the key here, to define the key, you can just drop in the section title. The section title worked perfectly fine for me when I was mapping through this. So in order to do that, it needs to have run this module. But if you I just open this up here. If you just like map in here, it's, where is it? If I go to schema, it's easier to see. I just mapped in section titles here. This is what I was mapping in here into that module here. So let me hop back out there. So you can just map that in. I haven't run the module here. We can execute the previous module. I think it might pop up. It doesn't pop up the previous module here. It's gonna run the whole module because this module's the previous module to that module. So that's why it wasn't showing up here. It's running it now, which is fine. We'll just let that run. What you can see is going on here while it's running is you notice it goes down different chains. Okay, so what the agent is doing is it's getting it some prompts which we put inside of here. It uses its brain to think. It's using its memory for context, so it knows what it's done previously. It's going into this database down here, And then I'll explain what this module is here in a second when we get to it. And then it's going back to the brain, back up to the agent. So you can see it goes in and out, in and out, in and out. This is how the agents can do such a great job. It's running off and doing the rest of the automation. That's okay. I'll let it run. So what you need to do here, if I click window buffer memory, now that it's run, you can see the fields are now mappable. If I set it over to mapping here. Okay, sorry, I just had to pause the video for a second, and it was kind of bugging out on me, but now it's mapping fine. I think it was just while it was running, possibly, that it wasn't mapping correctly until it completed its run. But you can see in here in the key value for the window buffer memory, I'm just dropping in the actual section title. So I just drag that field in like that, and it maps and works fine. What you need to do next, once you've got that set up, we then need to actually give the AI a prompt here. Okay, so what you want to do in here is put the agent as a tool agent, and then the source prompt is defined below, and then have this set to leave that as defined below. And then here in the prompt user message, you want to set that to expression. I'm going to expand this out so you can see what I'm doing in here. So then an AI agent in this particular case doesn't have many different tools or operations that it can run. It's really only got one task, which is to go into the Pinecone database and retrieve highly relevant content back for us, okay? Sometimes an AI agent can have multiple tools at its disposal. The more tools you have, the more instructions you need to give it in here, okay? So if I had like 3 or 4 different tools, I need to tell it what its tools are in here. I'm not going to go into that in this automation because we don't have multiple tools. I'm just going to explain what we do have and what we need to do. So here's the prompt. I suggest you just copy this exactly as I've got it. Okay, but you need to drag and drop some parameters in here in order for it to map properly. So what we're saying is you're retrieving relevant research for a specific section of a blog post. And the reason we're doing it section is because it's doing each task section by section of the blog post. It's not just doing one giant retrieval for the entire blog post. It's iterating through the sections. So that's why I need to instruct it every run that it's doing what it's doing, okay? And then we give it, here is the section title. Then we just start mapping in these fields. You can't map in this view. Oh, you can actually, sorry. Just drop them in there. And then you want to drop in section title, related keywords. And here's the outline for the section of the blog post you're retrieving content for. So you want to drop in here the actual content here, which is this. You need to just pay attention to the way that this is done. Now, this is important. Otherwise, this will break and it will be highly annoying from you. So we need to give it the outline of the blog post. Okay, so it has context of what it's doing. So in order to do that, we need to make sure it can see that. Okay, so we add a little code in here called stringify. So it's taking the output of the content, which is the blog post structure, and it's putting it all together. So if you look over on the right-hand side, it then goes deep inside the substructures inside this JSON and expands them out so that the AI can see, everything here. If you just see, if I take this off like that and I just undo this, let me just X this out like that, okay? It then can't see. It doesn't know what's inside of this, okay? So if I take, if I take this and put it back like that, now you can see, it can actually see what's going on inside of it, and it can see all the subsections. See the subsections and the subheadings are now available for it to see. So this is important for it to know what the whole structure of the blog post is about. Otherwise, that won't work. Okay, so what we're doing here, it's just dragging this module here, which is the content. I'm going to put it right below like that. Okay. If I just put it like that without doing the stringify part to it, you'll notice down here what comes out. If you look over, I'll just move this down. If you look over here, it just says object, object. It's because it can't see inside the deep nested arrays, okay, inside there. So it doesn't, all it sees is just object, object. So it doesn't do anything. So the way you fix that is doing what I did there. So this way it can see deep inside all the nested arrays inside that block structure. Okay, the next thing you do is say use these the query strings to query the Pinecone database. So these query strings here are what we are just like keywords that we want it to query. Okay, so what we're saying is we want to give it specific keywords to query the database, because there's no point in you can't really query a Pinecone database with a huge blob of text. You want highly relevant, specific keywords that you're going to be querying the database with, so that it knows exactly what you want to retrieve back out. So here you'll see this one is what we're dropping in here. This is where the previous module, we asked it to create a query string output, and that's why we did that. So when we query Pinecone, we can get a really good response. Then we just tell it how many responses we want to query, okay? Now this step here, this is an advanced step. You don't have to do this step, but if you want to get really incredible results, then I encourage you to push through and get to this more advanced level. This is adding in Cohere to re-rank the results. So what's happening, if I just jump out of here for a second and jump out of here, when this AI agent goes into our Pinecone database, and I'm going to show you how to connect all this in a second, it's going to retrieve results back. That's what's going on here, okay? But we can add an extra layer and get this module called Cohere to look at the results and resort the results into the best, highest relevancy, so that the results that are then sent back to the AI agent are the absolute best results. So think of it, if you have a lot of content and this query comes back with, say, 10 to 20 results, it may not be the best results in the right order that you want. This Cohere module is a specific module which will look at what was retrieved, look at the query, and it will reorder everything in the right order that makes the most sense for the AI to use. If you don't do this, you'll still get a really good result, so you don't have to do this. But if you do this, it's enabling the AI to get the best results it possibly can. Because sometimes in AI, if you give it too much information, it'll ignore some of it. So if you had like 10 results from Pinecone, it might only look at 3 or 4 of them. So you might as well make sure that you're giving it the best. That's what Cohere is doing. Now, the caveat is, in order to do Cohere, you are going to need to go and get an account at Cohere. Again, you can have a free account. You need to go and get your API key, come back in here and connect it. Once you've got it connected, the maximum number of tokens, you can play around with just how much results you want to pull back from Pinecone database. I've just got it set to 850. You could have that set to higher if you wanted to. The model I'm using here is command-R 08-0 2024. You can use it. This model you can change. Cohere, if you go to their website, will give you different models. You can change this around, and then you can just leave the sampling temperature the way it is. By just simply doing that, Cohere is then going to reshuffle the results. Okay, so the next module that you need to connect off of this agent, actually, let's just finish off this prompt in this agent where we're at here, okay? So that's what this was doing. It's telling it, you need to use Cohere to re-rank the results. Okay, you don't have to have that step if you don't want. Okay, here it's telling it how we want it to return it, and we're giving it certain rules on like the JSON output. That's all you need to know in this, okay? Let's move on. Down here, I've given it another prompt here. I'll just show you this one, which is just giving it some instructions. It's a pretty simple prompt here, actually. So you can just take a screenshot and dump that in. Once you've done that, the agent is really trained now on what it needs to do. I'm then going to take this, show you this next module. Off of the tools options, you want to put get source research. Okay, it's an in-memory vector store. So you want to add this module in-memory vector store. I'm going to click out of that. Once you've got that connected, okay, the data name, I just put mine as research retrieval. You just name it whatever you want. The description, please use this tool to, you're just telling it what the tool is doing. Please use this tool to please use this tool receive highly, I get that right, to receive highly relevant research data when the user asks, and I put a limit of the results to 7. Okay, so you click that together, like you just click that onto this tool. Then the AI agent knows that this is the tool that it's using to retrieve information from Pinecone. We've talked about Cohere, which comes off of this. And then off of this module, we need to add in a vector store module. Okay, so go over here and just add in a vector store module. I've already got it added in, so it's not going to let me add another one onto this one, but it's just a vector store module. So I've just got Pinecone vector store. So I'll just put Pinecone in actually. One sec. Pinecone vector store like that. Open it up. Now we're going to need another account over at Pinecone. So again, where you see these pencils, this is where you need API credentials, okay? So go over to Pinecone, and what we need to retrieve from Pinecone is an API key, okay? So we're just going to go to Pinecone, which is over here, pinecone.io. Over at Pinecone, I'm just going to go to the home page for you, okay? Oh, this is the home page. You need to set up an account, then you need to go to API keys and grab an API key. That's the first step. The next step is you need to create an index. This is just your database. So in previous videos, I've gone into more detail about adding content to a Pinecone database. So watch my previous YouTube videos on that. In here, you want to create an index. So just this is really just a name of where you want to put everything. So call it whatever you want, and then set the variables configuration down here to text embedding 3 small. Okay, and then everything else can just stay the same and click save. Once you've done that, your database is ready to receive information from N8N. So I'm just going to hop back to N8N now. Once you've done that and connected your credentials, you want to choose the operation to receive documents as a vector store chain here like that. And then the Pinecone index, this is just the name that you just created, your index, the index name you just created at Pinecone. So it knows where to look for the information. Because on Pinecone, you could have multiple databases because they've all named differently. So if you're running this as an agency, you might have databases for lots of clients. So you need to make sure you're connecting to the right database when you're doing retrievals. Okay, so once you've got this set up like this, I'm just going to pop out of here now. You need to then just put a chat GPT module, just like you have in other scenarios. You need to add one on, but this is a different module. It's not an OpenAI chat module. It's an embedding module, but it's still an OpenAI accounts and credentials. Here it's just, you click embeddings OpenAI module, okay? And then make sure the model is set to text embedding 3 small. That's really important, okay? Once you've connected this up, now this entire module here, I'll talk about this structure in a second, can run and retrieve information from Pinecone. So in order to do this, you actually need to have information in Pinecone. So if you go to my YouTube channel, the previous one, I'll just pop over there really quickly. So in these 2 videos here, this WhatsApp one and the Genius AI content, both of those are using Pinecone. And in there, I talk about how to populate Pinecone with information. So if you watch those, you'll have a really good understanding of how to populate Pinecone and automate the whole process. I'm not going to go into it in this video because it will take too long. Let's pop back now. So once you've got your database set up and it's full of content, now we can start using it. So in this example, the AI agent's already done it, and then it's going to spit out a format. So we're going to add another tool here, which is a structured output tool, okay? So once you're done that, sorry, my screen recording tool just crashed on me, so I'll just jump back to where we were. You need to have a structured output here. So in the structured output, put generate from JSON example, and here, you're just giving an example of the output you want. So I have an exact output like this. If you just copy this structure and feed it in, you don't need to do the whole thing like I did. You just need to give it a sample. So just take this first part like that, and then take maybe all the way down to there and take a screenshot of that. So take a couple of screenshots or examples, paste it in, and then you'll get the output that you want so that you can work with it later downstream. So once you've done that, the AI agent's done its research for us. And the next module here, I've just put a code module here. So a code module, if you just click on the right there and just click code, that yellow one, you can just do some JavaScript manipulation of what comes out of this agent. So all I did was, if you just open this up and copy, just put run once for all items and then language JavaScript. And then in here, just take a screenshot of this now and paste it in there and it will work. So all that's happening is it's taking this output structure here, and it was just combining the text into one flat output. So if I just open this up here on the JSON, you can see here it's combined everything that came out of that AI agent like this. So it's easier for me to then feed in the structure of the blog post with all the research and everything in one string that I can input into an LLM module later on that's doing the writing. So all this JavaScript was doing is it was getting all of this and flattening it out into a combined text output, which is just easier to map out later on. So again, it's pretty straightforward to do that if you use these nodes here. If you get stuck on this and for whatever reason it's not working, just ask ChatGPT what you want to do in this code node, and it will write the JavaScript for you. So just tell it, I want to flatten out all of this JSON. You can give it the JSON on each side. So go to JSON like that, copy it, give it to ChatGPT and tell it you want to get the text out of these fields and you want to flatten them into something like this, and it will write the JavaScript for you and give it to you. It's pretty easy to do that. Okay, the next mode here, what we want to do is get links. We want to be able to get the AI to internally link for us to other pages within our website. So the way we do that is we create an XML sitemap. So if you're using WordPress, there's a plugin called an XML sitemap generator. If you do that, it will generate a URL where you're an XML sitemap, which is really just a location on your website, which has a whole list of all of the internal links of your website. So we can do a request to pull those links back from a XML sitemap by doing an HTTP request here. So you do HTTP request, you get method, then you put the URL of your XML sitemap. So again, it's easy to do this on WordPress. It'll give you it. It'll automatically do it and spit out the XML sitemap. That's all you need to do. Then when this module runs, it spits out the sitemap, which has got all your internal links. This is just a dummy website that I'm playing around with. So the next module we want to do is do an XML to JSON, because we want to take that XML sitemap and turn it into a JSON structure that we can map downstream. So just add a module, which is an XML module. And then all you're doing here is actually nothing. You just automatically leave all those fields and it will know you want to take the previous module and you want to turn it into a JSON output. And that's what it does. And then it has our website here. And then we can actually manipulate that once it's in JSON format. And that's what I've done here on these two code nodes. I could have done one code node here, but I was just quickly putting these together to get what I wanted. And I just ended up doing two. But all I was trying to achieve here is exactly the same thing we did previously, in that we're writing JavaScript or getting ChatGPT to write it for us and telling it what we want to do. We've got JSON on the left, and then we want to output JSON on the right, but I want a clean extracted list of extracted URLs like this, and it will write the code for you in here, and then it will spit it out for you. And then you've got a JSON structure you can map with just URLs here of your sitemap. And we can, even on the next code node that we put in, we can stitch all of these URLs into a string rather than leaving them in a JSON structure. So if I just pop out of here, this is what this code node is doing. It's just taking that and it's just turning it into this output where we've got a string here. Okay, we've got all the URLs here, an array, and then a string. All we actually need is this string. We didn't actually need that. But all we're doing is telling ChatGPT, write some JavaScript that takes this JSON and turns it into this format where all of the URLs are a string. So the reason we're doing that is the next module over here is another LLM chain module. Okay, and what this module's doing is it's going to pick out of the list of URLs that it just got given in the string format that we give it, because it's easier to work with when it's in a string. We're saying to it, pick the most relevant internal links to the article that we're writing right now. Okay, so again, with this module, you need to connect a chat module to it. The output structure that we're going to give it is just this very simple JSON output, because all we want to do is we want it to put out two URLs. Just pick the two most relevant URLs from our entire website and put them here that relate to the content that we're writing right now. That's all its job is, this LLM, okay? It could be more than two, by the way. I just did this as an example. You could have 4 internal links or 5. But what we do in here, if we look at how we're prompting it, I'm giving it the URL string as the input here, okay? So this is the string we just created here. See, all these URLs are in a string. It's just saying, look at these URLs, okay? And then we're going to prompt it and say, you're given a list of URLs below. Choose exactly 2, it could be more, that are the most relevant to the topic that we're writing the blog post about, okay? And then I just mapped in here one of the earlier modules, which was the section title. So it knew that was the first section of the blog article, which was the first main headline which described it. You'll just notice here, when I mapped from here, if you look at it closely, I actually had to change it slightly because I couldn't map directly, or it wouldn't know which section title to grab. So I just changed this. Instead of having item there, I just changed it to first and then open close bracket, which means in that array, grab the first section and then that one. And then if you look over on the right, it turned it into a string over here. So that's how it was able to, I manipulated that with that function of the first, meaning grab the first one in the array. Otherwise, it didn't know which section title to grab. So I just told it to grab the first one by just, this is dynamically mapped, but this is telling it get the first. So I just changed it instead of item, which you were just seeing there, I changed it to first. Then I map in the string of URLs again. And you can see here, here's all these URLs. So it's just saying, look at the title. This one, it's Understanding Heart Disease. Look at your list of URLs that you've got. In this case, it's only 6, so it's not really a great example. But imagine if you had 100 or 200. It will grab the most relevant other internal links to the article that you're writing. Now, really, in hindsight, you probably want to feed it more than just the section title. Probably want to feed it maybe the blog summary might have been better to give it a bit more context. So that's probably not the best way what I've done here, but for an example purpose. But just so you know, you can map anything in here. So it would probably be better to go back and map in something where it had like the blog summary or something like that. You could even, you could take the whole combined structure. It might be a bit of overkill though. You could just take like somewhere where even one of the outputs earlier where it actually just summarized the YouTube video. As long as it has enough context, the AI, to know what the topic that the blog post is about, it will find the most relevant other links on your website. And the reason we're doing this is we want to internally link to these pages. So that's what that module is doing, and it's outputting 2 links, which we'll use later when we do the writing. So this automation is almost finished now. So we've only got a couple more steps, and then you're done and you've completed the automation. This step here is another LLM chain, same setup, connect a module, open it up. All we're doing here is we're saying, earlier on, there was Perplexity output that was done, and Perplexity created content and citations. If you look back earlier in the automation, we broke those out and we set those modules where it had a list of citations from the Perplexity output. All we're doing now is grabbing those citations and we're turning them into hyperlinks. So that's what this is telling it to do. Just copy this prompt exactly how I've got it, like that, and then in the user message, just dynamically map the citations that came out of Perplexity earlier on, okay? By doing that, what we're actually doing, if you go to the example here, where we, earlier in the video when we ran the whole thing, it's creating this references section here, okay? That's what it's doing, these hyperlink references in our article. So we're linking off the high quality content. Okay, so that's all this module's doing. And then if we move along here, we only have a few more modules to go. There's a code module here. So this module here is taking the text output and it was just cleaning it up so that it made it easier to feed it in. So if we look at the input body, it's coming from, if I just close this out. So I just jumped ahead of a step. One sec. That code module there is actually cleaning up the output of the final text that we wrote, but we're not at that stage yet. Sorry, we're actually at this stage. I jumped ahead one. So now that we've got that, it's another LLM chain here. This LLM chain is actually writing the blog post, okay? So this is a large prompt that we're putting in here, okay? I encourage you to take a screenshot. I know I went through that real quick, so I'll go through it a lot slower. But this is telling it how to write, okay? And this is an important step. So I would take a screenshot and just read through this. I'll go down in sections so you can see and read it for yourself. The key thing here is this mappable field is that flattened structure that we did when we came out of the AI agent. We then manipulated what came out of that agent. And remember, we flattened it into like a big text output. That's what this is. So it's easier to feed this straight into this writing module in a text format. So that's what this is doing. That's why I flattened it out. Okay, then we're just telling it all the different structures and writing styles. So just take a screenshot from this as I go down. It gives it examples. It tells it what and how to output things. So spend some time having a look at that. I'll try not to go too quickly. Here's an important part here. It says you must include 2 internal links and hyperlink text to them and place them wherever it makes sense. So it's telling it you need to do hyperlinking within the article. And then the 2 links that we created in the pick internal links module that we just did, we're mapping these in here and saying, these are the 2 links that you can internally link to. Then we tell it, you need to create hyperlinks where it makes sense in the content and link out to these, and it will do it. Okay. And then the references, now it's telling it to put the references in, and then we give it the link to the references that we just did in the previous step, and we map in the output of all those references. So remember, we just did that then. We just extracted them, and we mapped these in, and then it just grabs those and we'll put them in. And then it carries on and just gives it instructions on writing, the style of writing that we want it to do. We give it a slight example here, and that's really all we're doing. And then it's got enough information now to write the blog post. So it's written the blog post here, and then you can see I had one small issue when it came out, and I tried to get rid of it by prompting, and it just didn't seem to want to obey. So you can see here it's got these characters here of these \n\n. It's just doing these, and it's done them in singles and doubles here. I couldn't get it to get it out, so the easiest thing I did to get it out, because we don't want that in here, it's just a new line character, but it wouldn't listen to my prompting. It's not a big deal. We can easily clean it up. And this is an example where these code modules are so handy. All I did was add a code module after here. I got ChatGPT to write that JavaScript for me. And I said, look, here's the problem. These won't go away. I've tried everything I can. It won't listen. Tell me write the script to get rid of it. And it gives you the JavaScript. And then it cleaned it right out over here, and then they're gone. Sometimes you have to hack around with these things, but that's all that code node is doing, is just doing a quick tidy up, which is what all the code nodes are doing when you've got any challenges. Okay. And then the last final steps here is just an intro, writing the introduction. So it's the same LLM chain here. We just give it we give it a prompt that tells it to write an introduction, and then we map in the export of this clean code node that we just did, which is basically the written blog post, saying now you need to write an introduction for this blog post that it just wrote. Okay, and we just give it. You can look at my prompt here if you want to see how I've done it, and that's how it will see it. And then it's going to write an introduction for the blog. Okay, and then the same thing with these new lines kept coming up, so I did the same cleanup there with another code node. Same thing, clean it up. Conclusion, exactly the same thing, except I actually feed it the blog outline, the body, and then I just tell it to write a conclusion. You can have a look at how I've prompted. It's pretty straightforward, these last steps here. Okay, and then it did the same new line thing, so I just cleaned it up with these code nodes. So these are just JavaScripts to clean out those characters that it was putting in. And then finally, all we need to do is pull it all together. So we can use one of these set variables, which is, or an edit variable, they call them an N8N. All you want to do here is just click mode, manual mapping, and all you're doing here is you're just mapping in all of the fields that you just did. So it's actually got 3 fields here. It's got the introduction, it's got the body copy, and it's got the conclusion all mapped in. You can just drag and map these straight in, and then it's going to stitch these all together, and you have your final blog post output there. So that's all you need to do on that module there. And then the final module is an Airtable module, which is an update a record. So if you go update a record, here you have to put your credentials in, and the operation is called update. So this is different than the first operation when we were getting and retrieving a record. Now we're updating a record, okay? So you choose the same table and base, and then you want to map in here. I've actually hard coded that. You actually want to map in dynamically the you want to dynamically map in if you go right back to the Airtable webhook here, back here, schema. We'll go back to the webhook there. So I just had to pause the video and fix that. I was trying to figure out what N8N was having trouble with there. But I've dynamically mapped it in, but again, it thinks that there was more than one webhook to grab. So if you look at manipulating the string, I just put that same first thing in there like that function, and then it just grabs the first one. There is only one, but N8N's a little bit more difficult to use sometimes than tools like Mate, which are more drag and drop friendly. Sometimes N8N I find makes things a little bit more difficult, but it did get the right record ID when I did that like that, because it thinks there was multiple and it couldn't tell which one I wanted to grab. But you can see the record ID is UF9, ends in UF9, and you can see down there it's grabbing UF9 like that. Okay, so now that it has the right record, I can then update the content. So we want to go down to blog article here, and the output that we just did, if we go all the way back up to the mapping up here, and the final blog post, which we put in this variable where we joined them all together, that is what we're mapping in there. I'm not going to put it in twice, but that's what maps in here, the blog article. And then it updates Airtable with that. And the only other thing we need to do is change the status at our Airtable to blog post completed. So if we go to the status field here, and we go to the drop down, we'll go blog post written. I think it was blog post written, that's what I chose. And then it will update the status, and then that's good to go. So now, when that automation completes over back at Airtable, it's going to change the status from write blog to blog post written. It will also then give you your final blog post there. So that is how you do the full automation. So if we just have a quick look back over the whole automation, what we've essentially done is we've triggered Airtable, which has got a YouTube transcript. It grabbed it, all the details, transcribed it. It made a summary of it with some keywords to query Perplexity. Perplexity went out on the internet and got more research. This was all then created into a blog outline for us using that information. This was then queried into an agent, which went into a Pinecone database to get even more relevant information from our own company data. So the research was coming from 3 different places. And then we flattened all of that out and joined it together. We did an HTTP request to get our website XML links, so we know to internally link out to other articles. We also extracted all of the citations back in this step that we got from Perplexity. So all the research links it found, we grabbed them over here and we put them in extract sources. Then we started writing. We put everything together. We wrote the body section by section. We wrote the intro. We wrote the conclusion. We stitched it all together, and then we added it back to Airtable. And then the output that we got is this article, which is a really great high quality article. Now, in future videos, I'll show you how to do a lot more manipulation of writing tools to do other things, and how to embed images and videos and all sorts of other things. So I think we'll leave it at that for this video. If you found it video helpful, do me a huge favor, leave me a comment below and subscribe if you would, and give me a thumbs up. I'll see you in the next video.